So good afternoon, students. Today we will discuss another model system, that is particle confined to three-dimensional box. This is another simplest system, slightly difficult than the particle confined to one-dimensional box solution. But as we are already familiar with the particle confined to one-dimensional box problem, I would say that this is it's not very difficult. So it is very easy to handle, and we will realize that how easy it is, because uh, you know why I said it is difficult, because unlike the particle confined to one-dimensional box, here there are three variables. That's why I said it's slightly difficult, but then we adopt the solution as such. So let me proceed systematically. What is particle confined to one-dimensional box, and its a description, and what are the assumption that we take before proceeding the writing down the Hamiltonian, and then writing solving the Schrodinger wave equation that we will see. What exactly is the particle confined to one-dimensional box? Okay, it is similar to that of particle confined to one-dimensional box. This problem is also very simple. Here, you just imagine a rectangle box, okay, and then you drop one a quantum particle within that. So that is going to be your particle confined to three-dimensional box. Okay, just imagine a cubical box or rectangular box. Within that, you just drop one, you just place your quantum particle, and that is what is referred to as a particle confined to a three-dimensional box. That's all. And here, just for the sake of convention, for the sake of notation, I'm going to follow this type of coordinate system. Okay, so the length of the box along the x-axis is what I refer to as the L1, and the length of the box along the y-axis is L2. The length of the box along the z direction, it is basically L3. So that is what I refer to particle in three-dimensional box. Now the question is, are there any real systems? How do I imagine such a system? Okay, you just take a piece of metal. So a piece of metal, I'm sure that most of you are very much familiar that metal is having a lot of electrons. Okay, and but the for the sake of simplicity, we don't consider all the electrons within the metal. So we only consider only one electron, and we just try to mold the uh, piece of metal sheet, and then you try to shape it into a rectangular box. So that is something that what I refer to as the particle confined to three-dimensional box. Again, this is, what is the smallest size of the box that we can imagine. Of course, in this illustration or the example, a piece of metal piece can be, if you want to make it with a hand, at least we can make up to 1 centimeter or 2 centimeter cubical box with our hands. But then you have some robotics, and then the robotics can make the cubical box or rectangular box with a smaller size than this. But again, I would say that it's very difficult to see the energetic or the quantum effects when you are dealing with a relatively bigger box. Therefore, we have to really go down, only then the quantum effects can be observed. Therefore, the real system for this type of model problem is, I would say, you just, I'm sure that most of you, one way or other way, in some point of in your BSc or when you attended some lectures, probably you heard about it. So what is known to as a nanoparticle, and these days it is fairly easy to synthesize nanoparticles even in MSc or BSc laboratory. Many syllabuses, many BSc syllabus, they have incorporated the synthesis of nanoparticles. Okay, so just imagine you are you are going to prepare, you are going to deal with either gold or silver or any, for the sake of discussion, maybe any metal. You just imagine when you are trying to make the gold nanoparticle or any nanoparticle in general. Okay, so it is it is it's so common that the most of the nanoparticles are spherical shape or some kind of irregular shape, but there are several methodologies have been developed, and where the where precisely you can actually prepare a kind of cubical nanoparticles, and you can also prepare other shapes as well, like prismatic and also octahedral, and then square bipyramidal. So there are different shapes or sheets and wires, nano wires, and nano ribbons. Okay, so these nano rods, so nano tubes, so different type of and variety of nanoparticles can be prepared these days. It's not very difficult. The only thing is that you need to have a proper laboratory setup and the required ingredients. Then it is fairly easy. So what I suggest you is that if you ask me what is the real system that I can imagine as a chemist for the particle confined to three-dimensional box. So if you ask that question, my answer is that, okay, nanoparticle whose dimensions are in the, I mean, you just imagine a nanoparticle, a rectangular or cuboidal shaped nanoparticles is are relatively, it's easy nowadays, but then slightly a decade ago, they are little difficult to synthesize. But nowadays, we have a lot of methodologies and synthetic procedures have been developed, and those are the real system for the topic what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so in such a nanoparticle, okay, you just imagine that is a box, and then you drop one electron. Of course, as I mentioned, it is nanoparticle and is made up of metal. Again, since it is a metal, we can have a lot of electrons. But then, as I told you, that system is something that we can define our based on our convenience, right? So as per the postulate number 1. So I'm going to neglect all the electrons, and I will only consider that only one particle within that. Okay, I will not bother about, even though there are several electrons, I don't bother about really, but I only bother about only one particular electron in that particular nanoparticle. Okay, that is a real example for for particle confined to three-dimensional box. Okay, so today what we will do, we'll try to we'll try to write down the Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, by understanding the what is Hamiltonian. Then later on we'll write down Schrodinger wave equation, and then we'll try to solve that, and we'll try to find its solutions. That's all we are going to do today in class. And the difference between the particle, before I proceed, I just want to make this difference very clear. I just already mentioned at the beginning of my class, what is the difference between a particle confined to three-dimensional box and two-dimensional box, three-dimensional box. Of course, you can also have a two-dimensional box. That particular problem I'm not going to discuss, but then if you understand these two problems and its solution is going to be midway between the solution of particle confined to one-dimensional box and particle confined to three-dimensional box. Therefore, based on this topic discussion, probably you should refer a standard textbook and then try to understand the solutions. Write down the Hamiltonian and write down the Schrodinger wave equation and try to write down the solution and try to find the solutions. The difference between these two is basically here in this case the particle is moving in three-dimensional direction. Therefore, naturally, it's a dynamic. It's a kinetic energy or kinetic energy operator is going to be a three component, not one component. That is the basic difference between the particle confined to one-dimensional box and the three-dimensional box. Therefore, naturally, since there are three variables, and your wave function is going to have three variables, and therefore, previously we have seen the variable separable method for resolving when we have a time component and precision component. Okay, so we try to resolve two different equations, and then later on we try to write down different expressions where only one variable is there, differential expression, and then we found the solution. And similar to that here, unlike particle confined to one-dimensional box, here we have three variables. Therefore, we will have three differential equations. And these three differential equations, when you try to solve, then we'll get three different solutions. Okay, so that is the another difference between particle confined to one-dimensional box and three-dimensional box. Okay, so the variables are three in this case. Therefore, the wave function is going to be three variables. And so what we try to do that the total wave function, probably you can think of like the product of three different wave functions, wherein one wave function exclusively depend upon the one variable, other wave function exclusively depend upon the other variable, and the third one depends upon the third variable. And as a product, when you multiply all these things together, then you will get the total wave function. Okay, so that's the difference between the solution of the previous problem which we discussed and this particular problem. Okay, and this is my particle, as I already pointed out. Now the particle basically is placed in a rectangular box whose dimensions are basically L1 and L2 and L3. Now we need to define our system. Okay, so the potential energy within the box is set to be 0. The potential energy within the box is set to be 0. I mean, basically we are assuming that its potential energy is 0. Okay, when I said the potential, as long as the particle is within the box, its potential energy is 0. That means that, okay, if the particle, suppose if it is moving along the x direction, and if it is within the limits 0 and L1, then its potential energy must be 0. Similarly, if the particle is within 0 and L2, its potential energy again it must be 0. And then suppose if the particle is within the limits 0 and L3, then again its potential energy is going to be 0. Okay, so the moment I said the particle is within the box, that means is that again I have to define very precisely what exactly what exact meaning of mathematically what exactly is the meaning. The meaning is follows that, okay, for any reason, if the particle is within the if the particle is going outside the L1 limit, okay, if x is greater than L1, for example, then I would say that its potential energy is not 0. I would say something else. Okay, similarly, if the particle is within the L2 limit, 0 and L2, then I would say its potential energy is 0. Otherwise, I will say something else. So likewise, if the particle is within the limits, then its potential energy is 0. For any reason, if the particle is jumping outside these limits, then I would say its potential energy is infinitely large, and that large quantity in mathematics we represent with infinite. Okay, so just similar to that of particle confined to one-dimensional box problem. There is nothing different. The only difference is that the potential energy, again, as I pointed out, since it is a three-dimensional, since the problem is a three-dimensional problem, therefore we have three position coordinates, right? As like the psi is three position, psi is having three variables. Likewise, the potential energy is going to depend upon three variables x, y, z. Okay, and its potential energy is within the box is set to be 0. The potential energy is set to be 0 within the box, which is also mean that when x is in between L1, 0 and L1, and when y is in between 0 and L2, and z is in between 0 and L3. So within these limits, then if the particle is confined within these three limits, then immediately I will say that its potential energy is 0. For any reason, even a single condition is not satisfying for any reason. For example, that there are three limits, then for any reason, okay, x is in between 0 and L1, and y is in between 0 and L2, but Z is, let's say, for some reason that if it is above L3 or below 0, then I would say its a potential energy, I would say, infinitely large. Even one limit is exceeding, or one condition, even if one condition out of the three is not satisfying, then I would say its potential energy is going to be infinitely large. Okay. Now, what is that we have to do? Now we have to solve we have to write down the Schrodinger wave equation, right? For that, since there are three position coordinates, ideally what we are supposed to do is that we have to write down, we have to solve the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation, that is IH cross dou upon dou t psi of x comma y comma z comma t is equal to h psi x y z t. So ideally what we are supposed to do for any problem, so we are supposed to solve time dependent Schrodinger wave equation to obtain the wave function. Why we are interested in the wave function? Because if you know the wave function, that actually is a storehouse of the information. It has lot of information. So wave function is said to be storehouse of uh, information. It is a storehouse of information. Therefore, if you want to understand the system, how it behaves and how it changing with respect to time, then one should solve the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. That is, in this particular case, as we have three variables and one naturally one position coordinate will add upon. So therefore, we'll have three position coordinate, one time coordinate. So if you want to obtain the if you want to understand the system in a better way, so the best way is that one has to solve the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. But you realize the fact that you realize the fact that in this particular case that the potential energy is actually not changing with time. Okay, it is zero. That means it is not changing with time. Therefore, we need not to go for that one. Okay, we will come to that discussion. But for the time being, you can just try to. We will try to write down what is Hamiltonian. Okay, what is Hamiltonian? So this is the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation. Here everything is known, but then for this particular system, the Hamiltonian is not known. Therefore, the Hamiltonian we are trying to write down. It's fairly easy. It's not very difficult. It's like in the case of particle confined to one-dimensional box, the kinetic energy operator is going to be minus h cross square upon 2m dou square upon dou x square plus v of x. That's the Hamiltonian. But in this case, since the particle is moving in other two directions as well, therefore their kinetic energy operator must be incorporated into the Hamiltonian. That's the only difference. Okay, so it's like the first term what you see here. It's the kinetic energy operator. Okay, so this is a total kinetic energy operator as if the particle is moving in three different directions, and this particular thing actually comes from the interaction between as it with the environment it is interacting. Therefore, its potential energy we have to incorporate. Of course, it is zero. Then we will come to this in a shorter while later. Okay, so now having having known the Hamiltonian, then we can actually substitute a Hamiltonian within in the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation, and we have to try to solve the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation to obtain the wave function. Okay, and the total wave function, okay, the time-dependent wave function is going to be the wave function which exclusively depend upon the position variable and also which is multiplied with the time component. Okay, you remember that psi of x comma t. So this is something that we have solved already. Psi of x comma t, in the case of three particles, we have derived psi of x comma t is equal to psi of x multiplied by t of t, where t of t actually is the time. Okay, time function. how the time, with the time, how the system is changing, that is accounted by this particular factor. Okay. So ideally, what we are supposed to do is this. Ideally, what we are supposed to do is this. To obtain, to understand the wave function or the system, one has to solve this particular equation, this particular time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation. So if you are able to solve, then you will get the psi of x comma y comma z. Of course, it's not it's not necessary in this particular case, as we have already started with our discussion. Its potential energy is 0 within the box. That means it is not changing. Therefore, if it is not changing, as we already discussed this topic, that we need not to worry about time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation, which is rather difficult to solve. Instead, it is it is enough that we can solve the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation. Okay. So if the system is not, if the potential energy is not changing with time, therefore the time component I can avoid. The time component I can avoid in the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation. I can write down the expression. Then finally, ultimately what we are supposed to do is that h psi is equal to E psi. This is something that if you are able to solve, then we will get psi of x comma y comma z. If you are able to get psi of x comma y comma z to understand its time behavior, then you just multiply with the e to the power minus I ut by h cross. Okay. And if you multiply with the time factor, then we will get the total wave function, that is this one. Okay, if you are getting this one, that means that particular wave function, it is guaranteed that it will satisfy this particular wave equation, that is time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. So ultimately what we are supposed to do in the case of not only this particular system, in the case of all systems where the potential energy is constant and if it is not changing with the time, then the h psi is equal to E psi is something that needs to be solved. A simplest time independent Schrodinger wave equation has to be solved to obtain the wave function, and that wave function has to be multiplied with the time factor. Okay, so which will give you the total wave function, which actually has the position coordinates as well as the time coordinate. Okay, so once you have the total wave function, that particular wave function, it is guaranteed that it will solve, it will satisfy the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, so I have given enough explanation. If you need any clarification at this point of time, you just ask me. I think this type of really elaborated discussion I may not repeat in the future times. I will just simply, I will write down, I will just use one sentence saying that, okay, since the system potential energy is not changing, then it is enough that we can simply solve the time independent Schrodinger wave equation to obtain the wave function, and then we can proceed further. So that is going to be my explanation hereafter, but at this point of time I have given little elaborated explanation. If you still find it difficult to understand what I'm saying, or what if you have not followed, you can ask me right now. Are you following, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I will proceed. Okay, so this is the time independent Schrodinger wave equation. As I told you, here there are three different variables are there. Therefore, the total wave function, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say it as like, this. The total wave function is thought to be, or maybe I'm assuming the total wave function is the product of three functions in which one function exclusively depends upon the one variable, that is x. Another wave function exclusively depend upon y. Another function exclusively depend upon z. Right? My total wave function is the product of three wave function, wherein one wave function exclusively depend upon one variable, and another depends upon another variable, another depends upon z variable. So when I multiply these three functions, then I'm going to get the total wave function. So that's my simplest assumption that I'm assuming. Why we are doing this? Because in this particular, this is a second order differential equation where we have three variables are there. Okay, and as such it's a bit difficult to solve, but we can manipulate by using a simplest uh, mathematics tricks, and then we can find its solutions. So to find the solutions of this second order homogeneous differential equation, this is the best method, that is variable separable method. Okay, so the variable separable method, we have to assume the total wave function or the total function mathematical solution of the function probably may be thought of the product of three wave functions or the product of three functions. Then such a substitution, when you make it, then it is fairly easy to obtain three different differential equations which are uh, relatively easier to solve their solutions. As we proceed, you will understand this. At the time being, you just accept that this is something that it's not very new. We already discussed the same topic here when we have discussed when we are trying to solve the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation. We have discussed the similar arguments. The same thing I'm just telling to you right once again. That's all. Okay. So this is the basic difference in the case of particle confined to one-dimensional box and three-dimensional box. In the one-dimensional box, straight away we have gone. Once we have the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation, simply we have guessed the mathematical wave function based on our intuition, and also based on our mathematical knowledge. We try to guess the wave function, and then we have given its solution, and finally we found the solutions. But in this case, it is not that it is not going to work out in that fashion, but rather it is slightly different. The difference is that the total wave function, we are going to say, like it is the product of three wave function, wherein the one function exclusively depend upon x variable, other function exclusively depend upon y variable, other function depends upon exclusively on the z variable. Okay, that's the basic difference. Now similarly, what I assume that, okay, the potential energy within the box is zero. Outside, the moment it is actually violating those three limits, even one of the condition is not satisfied, then I would say the potential energy is going to be infinitely large. Okay, that is there. So what I'm going to assume is that, okay, the potential energy, I'm going to imagine, like it is the summation of three potential energies. Okay, uh, suppose if the particle is moving along the x direction, it is going to have some potential energy. That particular potential energy I represent with v of v1 of x. Okay, v1 of x is the potential energy of the system, okay, of the particle or the quantum system within three-dimensional box, if it is moving in a x direction. But the particle is not confined to only x direction. It also can move in y direction. In such a situation, then it will have the y component of the potential energy, that is v2 of y, and z component of the potential energy is taken to be v3 of z. Okay, so the total potential energy is taken to be the summation of three potential energy, as if the particle or the quantum system is actually moving in respect to directions. Okay, now again, I can also further define what is v1 of x. I can also further define based on this argument v1 of x. Okay, v1 of x is equal to 0. v1 of x is going to be 0 if the particle is within 0 and L1 limits along the x direction. Otherwise, it's going to be infinity. Otherwise, it's going to be infinity. Similarly, the v2 of x, v2 of y, again is going to be 0 if the particle is confined to the limits 0 and L2 along the y direction. Okay, in any case, that if it is If the particle is going above L2 or below 0, then the particle, its potential energy, that is V2 of y, is going to be infinitely large. Similarly, uh, I can also define the z component of the potential energy, that is again 0 if the particle is within the 0 and L3 along the z direction, and then otherwise it's infinitely large. So again, these are small arguments from the concept that the total potential energy is taken to be the summation of 3, as if the particle is moving x, y, and z directions. If that is true, then it must have the potential energy, and the conditions are defined like this. Like again, if the particle is within 0 and L1, its potential energy 0, otherwise it's infinitely large. So likewise, we have actually dissected the potential energy also for the sake of convenience. Why I am doing all these things, you will understand very soon. Now, this is what is the equation or the expression time dependent, independent Schrodinger wave equation, where there is no potential, there is no time coordinate. The time coordinate is basically removed. Why? Because it is an example where its potential energy is not going to change. Therefore, wave function, from the wave function, the time variable has been removed. Similarly, from the potential energy, the time coordinate or the variable has been removed. That's all. Now, this is something that we have to solve. How do we solve this particular thing? Okay, we already assumed that what is v of x comma y comma z. V of x comma y comma z is nothing but v1 of x plus v2 of y plus v3 of z. Right? The potential energy is taken to be the summation of 3 components, as if the particle is moving in 3 directions. Okay, so that's the way it is. And the total wave function, again, we have assumed that it's the product of 3 wave functions, where one function exclusively depends upon x variable, other function depends upon y variable, other function depends upon z variable. Therefore, so in this particular expression, we are trying to basically substitute what is v of x, vxyz, and what is the wave function. That's all. There is nothing different from the first step and then the second step. And the following step is like this. Once you have these things, so what I'm going to do is that, okay, I'm taking the total wave function, that is this particular constant, this particular thing. So this is the total wave function. This I'm taking inside the this, there are two terms here, that is the potential energy term, and this is the kinetic energy. This is the kinetic energy term. Okay, so I'm taking inside, I'm taking this particular wave function inside from, and basically it is entering inside the bracket from the right hand side. So I'm trying to split up. I'm trying to split up the expressions as well. And then here you can see, I will just explain with regard to x component, and then the discussion is actually holds for the other two components as well. For example, you can just look into here, that here you have dou square upon dou x square. Dou square upon dou x square. What is here outside the bracket? Outside the bracket is a wave function. So this wave function straight away come on sit over. Basically, it will operate on the right hand direction, right? So when it is coming here, it will basically, it is going to be x of x, y of y, z of z, right? It is x of x, y of y, z of z. But you realize that dou square upon dou x square, which means is that this is a partial differentiation only with respect to x. Therefore, the other two functions, what are those? Y of y and z of z. Those are not going to affect. Therefore, we can write down those terms outside, and only dou square upon the x of x function has to keep as such. Why? Because the derivation, the second derivation is only with respect to x variable. Therefore, it has to keep as such The other two things that you can move outside, because the partial differentiation is only with regard to x. Therefore, that's all. Okay. Now, that is the first thing. And similarly, what I have is that here v1 of x, v1 of x, okay, and then there is outside that you have the product of these three. Simply it will come and then sit over here. It is just a product. There is nothing else. Okay, so v1 of x is just a the potential energy that the total wave function will come and then operate. Usually the potential energy is not, will not have any differentiation on those things. Simply it will, it's a variable, it's a multiplication. So therefore you can just write down those things as such. Okay, and then further what I'm doing, I'm trying to write down, and I'm trying to separate x, all the x terms, x of x terms one place, and then y of y terms, one place, and z of z one place. So similar discussion you can extend to other thing. This is a partial differential equation with respect to y. Therefore, when the wave function comes and operating, when the wave function and then coming inside this bracket, then basically it doesn't affect the x of x and the z of z. It only affects the y of y. Therefore, y of y you have to keep outside. Okay, but other two things, since they don't change with regard to y, partial differentiation with regard to y, then they can be written outside the derivation notation. So that's what I have done it here. And again, you know, the v2 of y is there, that has to be multiplied with the wave function. Okay, similarly, for the other component, you can extrapolate this discussion and you can just write down the another part. Okay, if you look at this, there are three. Basically, of course, there are a lot of terms. Basically, you have 6 terms are there, but adding together, these 2 terms are actually one set, and the other 2, this is basically another set, the other one is another set. Okay, on the right hand side, you know, on the right hand side, I didn't do anything, just as such I have written. Okay, so that's all for this particular topic. Now, what I'm going to do in the next step, I'm going to multiply the entire expression with x of x, y of y, and z of z. I'm going to just multiply the total expression with x of x, y of y, and z of z. So when I multiply that, what will happen is that it's fairly easy to guess actually. Okay, when you, sorry, not multiply, I'm sorry, it is basically we have to divide. When we are dividing each and every term within this bracket notation has to be divided. So basically y of y, z of z divided by x of x, y of y, z of z. Therefore, okay, y of y, z of z basically cancel out, only 1 over x of x will remain. Okay, when it comes to this particular topic, then it becomes basically v1 of x. So when it comes to here, then here x of x and z of z is there, right? So therefore 1 over y of y it will come. But here that you have x of x and y of y, okay, and as a result of which, that basically what we get is 1 over z of z. Okay, and on the right hand side, since we are dividing with the same factor this entire thing, then essentially this is going to be, this essentially it is going to be 1. Okay, here you will get only this term. You will get in this term this v1 of x. In this particular term, potential energy term, then you are going to get only v3 of z, because you are dividing with x of x, y of y, z of z. So therefore, essentially all those things cancel out. Only you will left with v1 of x in one case, v2 of y in another case, v3 of z in another case. So what we get is this. When you simplify based on when you divide with the x of x, y of y, z of z, this is what you are going to obtain. So 1 over x of x, dou square upon x of x by dou x square plus v1 of x, plus 1 over y of y, dou square upon y of y by dou y square plus v2 of y plus 1 over z of z dou square z of z divided by dou z square plus v3 of z. On the right hand side, basically you are going to get basically just the constant. So from here onwards, how do we proceed? Can anybody guess?
Sir, multiplying this s square by 2m, right side.
Multiplying this with the
E, right side 2m e by h cross square minus 2m e by h cross square.
no. Any other guess? See, my argument is this, okay? On the left hand side, you can see how many expressions that we have. We have, as such, we have x component. These are, I would say, these are x component, and these two are the y components, and these two are the z components. There are three, but as such, you can treat like this is f of x, right? Okay, or maybe you can take as x of x, and these are basically y of y, and these are basically capital Z of Z. Okay, the summation of three functions is going to be a constant. Understand? The summation of the summation of three functions is going to be a constant. So when this happens in mathematics, this happens only when you have individually these equations actually become some other constant, and those constant summation, when you add together, then they must be equal to E3. Okay, I repeat the same thing, that this is a summation of three equations. This is one equation, this is another equation, this is another equation, and these are actually functions. I mean, these are differential equations, second order homogeneous differential equations. You can realize that. Okay, so these are second order homogeneous differential equations, and the summation is going to be a constant on the right hand side. That's what the mathematical expression says. Okay, that's what the mathematical expression says. Then the argument is very simple, that this is only happens in mathematics independently when these three equations equal to some other constant, and when you add those constant together, then you are going to get this total constant. So let me put it this way. This is what I'm writing down based on this argument. So minus h cross square upon 2m multiplied by 1 over x of x, dou square upon x of x by dou x square plus v1 of x plus v1 of x is equal to E1. Okay, E1. Similarly, I can write down the other expression, 2, 3, 4 expressions. What is the mathematical logic behind this? So there are three different functions, and they are equal to one constant. E is a constant. Okay, so this only happens independently. These three expressions are equal to some constant, and okay, like E1, E2, and E3. And when you add all these three constants, that must be equal to this total constant, that E. Are you following this logic? Otherwise, this equality cannot be satisfied. Otherwise, this equality cannot be satisfied. This can only be satisfied only when you can write down three different expressions, and then the constants, the summation of three constants, when it becomes total E. I hope that you are following. Then once we have these expressions, now I will take up, there are three different expressions I have. Here, this particular expression, that is equation number 2, is having only x of x. I mean, this expression is having only the x variable or x function. It doesn't have any other thing. And similarly, expression number 3 is having only the y variable, and the fourth one is having only z variable. Therefore, I'm going to deal each expression separately. So the first I take the equation number 2, that is x of x, and then I will try to multiply it with x of x. When I try to multiply with x of x, already in the first term, that is the kinetic energy term, there is a x of x, 1 over x of x. Already 1 over x of x is there. Therefore, denominator, since already one x of x is there, since we are going to multiply with the same x of x, naturally both get cancelled each other, then we will have only 1. And when it comes to the potential energy thing, then v1 of x is there. Therefore, that when we multiply it with x of x, that basically multiplies, which is equal to E1 x of x. Are you following this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's just a multiplication. You just multiply the previous expression, that is expression number 2, which is having only x of x, that is x variable expression. Just to multiply with that. When you multiply it in the first term, we have 1 over x of x. That 1 over x of x actually get cancelled because you are multiplying with the same thing. Okay, and then the other two terms we will have x of x, just multiplying with the in one case it is v1 of x, the other case it is multiplying with the constant e1. Okay, so now what I do is that I will rewrite the expression in a slightly different fashion. I'll rewrite the expression in slightly different fashion. So here what I did was, okay, there is a kinetic energy operator, that is minus h cos square upon 2m dou square upon dou x square. Here, as you can notice here, there is a x of x is there. Okay, that is basically on right hand side, and here there is a v1 is there, but multiplied by x of x. Therefore, so I will write down the x of x outside, and then the other thing, only the kinetic energy operator thing, I will just keep inside the brackets. That's all I'm going to do, nothing else. So 5 and 6 essentially are the same. The only difference is that the function x of x is written outside the bracket. That's all. Now, similarly, I will extrapolate my discussion, the same discussion, to the other two expression. That is the third expression, that is having only the y variable expression. That I'm going to multiply with the y of y. When I multiply with the y of y, in this case, since already the denominator I have y of y, and multiplying with the y of y, same quantity, say both quantity cancel each other, then I will left with 1. Okay, the other v2 of y multiplied with the y of y, it will be there, and similarly e2 is multiplied by y of y. Okay, so that's all from the second one. And again, this particular expression I am trying to rewrite in a slightly different fashion. That is, okay, the Hamiltonian I am keeping within the brackets, and then the function, wave function, I am writing outside the outside the brackets, y of y. Okay, nothing else. And the same discussion you can also extrapolate to the other expression, that is a fourth expression. So the fourth expression is having z variable exclusively. It is also a second order homogeneous differential equation. I'm just trying to multiply with the z of z, the entire expression, then naturally I will get the kinetic energy operator term, multiply the potential energy, and then that will be there. So again, you can write down slightly different fashion, where in the Hamiltonian you keep it within the bracket, and the function you can write down slightly, you can write down outside the bracket for the sake of convenience. Okay, so now if I summarize what I have said, basically we got three expressions through three different expressions, homogeneous second order differential equations, and those equations we just multiplied with x of x in one case, y of y in another case, z of z in another case. As a result, we got three different equations, and three equations we have written slightly different fashion. Now these are the expressions that we got. So 6, 8, 10 are the three expressions. You can notice here, in the first term is basically a kinetic energy operator plus the potential energy multiplied by the wave function x of x is equal to E1 x of x. Okay, and in this case you have y of y is written outside, Again, this is the Hamiltonian, as if the particle is basically moving along the y direction. Then E2 multiplied by y of y. And this is for the z component. Are you following up to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now from here onwards, it is fairly simple. Okay, I will write down what is, you can see from here, the first expression. I will take the first expression. I mean, what we did actually, we have started with writing the Hamiltonian. Okay, Hamiltonian is having three, it's a Laplacian operator is there, where three components are there: dou square upon dou x square plus dou square upon dou y square, dou square upon dou z square. Okay, and we have splitted the equation in three terms, and then we also have the wave function, and the wave function is taken to be the product of three functions, and the potential energy is actually the summation of three components, as if the particle is moving in three different directions. So those values we substituted there, and accordingly we got some expression, and those expression we try to write down in a systematic fashion, and from there we obtain three different differential equations. As you can see here, that the first expression, I would say this is the sixth expression, I would say it's the first one. And here you can see what is this expression. This expression is exactly and precisely same as if the particle is moving in one-dimensional box along the x direction, isn't it? You can just go back and check your notebooks, what we have discussed in the case of particle confined to one-dimensional box. What is the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation over there that we have obtained? Of course, v1 of x, in the place of v1 of x, we have 0. That will come to that later. But otherwise, initially when we wrote the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation for particle confined to one-dimensional box, it is essentially one kinetic energy operator plus the potential energy multiplied by the wave function, which is equal to E psi, right? That's all, right? So the expression number 6 is essentially, I would say, it is nothing but as if the particle is moving along the as if the particle is placed in a one-dimensional box, but it is along the x direction. Are you following? Since the expression what we have is resembling with that of the particle confined to one-dimensional box problem, then my claim is that this particular expression, equation number 6, I would say is that this expression is exactly similar to that of a particle as if it is only moving along the x direction. Okay, as if it is only moving along the x direction within the limits that is 0 and L1. Similarly, I will extrapolate this discussion to the expression number 8. There also you can see here only y variable things are there. There is nothing else. Okay, so this is a h psi. This is of the form h psi is equal to E psi. Okay, h psi is equal to E psi. What is this? This is a simple time-independent Schrodinger wave equation, as if the particle is moving along the y direction, as if the particle is moving only in the y direction. Similarly, we can also write down the third expression, that is expression number 10. This is again the Hamiltonian. This is nothing but the Hamiltonian, as if the particle is moving in the z direction. H psi is equal to E psi. H psi is equal to E psi. Okay, so therefore, based on this particular argument, these solutions we need not to do it again, I would say, because these solutions already we found out. These solutions already we found out. Suppose If the particle is moving exclusively along the x direction, then those solutions are going to be like this. X of x is going to be square root of 2 by L1 sine n1 pi x by L1. Okay, why I have written like this? Because the expression what we got is a second order homogeneous differential equation. And it is also said to be that as if the particle is moving along the x direction, but the box is oriented along the x direction, whose length is L1. Whose length is L1. That is the length of the box. L1 is the length of the box that we already defined when we are defining the particle, the cubical rectangular box. X direction, the length of the box is basically L1. And in fact, we said that as long as the particle is within the limit 0 and L1, its potential energy is 0. Right? So based on these arguments, I would say the solution of x of x need not to be solved again, because this is exactly resembling the particle confined to one-dimensional box, whose solutions already worked out in the previous class. Okay, we need not to do it again. Simply those things we can just adopt it. That's what I have done it. So x of x is the solution of the expression number 6, which is nothing but the homogeneous second order differential equation, whose solution is going to be square root of 2 by L1. Okay, where this 2 by L1, square root of 2 by L1 is basically the normalization constant, and sine n1 pi x by L1. Okay, since the particle can move only up to L1, that is the maximum length L1. Okay, so that L1 has to be replaced. In the previous example, that is particle confined to one-dimensional box, we have the notation of capital L. But here, along the x direction, it is only moving up to L1. Therefore, that substitution needs to be made. Okay, and what is the expression for E1? The expression for E1 is nothing but you need not to work it again. As I told you, the solutions of particle confined to one-dimensional box, you can just adopt and then you can just write down. That's all. Okay, so what is the difference between that one? If a particle is moving confined to one-dimensional box, its eigenvalue, that is energy expression, is going to be n square h cross square pi square by 2 capital L square, 2m capital L square. But here, the length of the box is L1. Therefore, that substitution need to be, we have to make that substitution. Okay, I'm sure that you are following the logics, and later on you may forget these logics. You please stop and ask me if you have any doubt on this particular argument. Are you following what I have said?
Yes,
Sabuddin. Sabuddin.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me why I have written like this? Why I am taking the solutions of particle in one-dimensional box directly? Can you tell me quickly?
Sir. No, sir.
No, you don't know. But you are not asking. You said you understood. Huh? Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Yes, sir.
Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Why I have adapted the solutions of particle confined to one-dimensional box directly to the particle confined to three-dimensional box problem?
Because this expression is taken separately.
Can you say it again? Once again, I didn't follow.
We can take the x particle in one that X variable is only considered here.
Okay.
So we take it separately.
Okay. So why we are actually taking, the answer is very simple. There are three different expressions we obtained after doing little bit of rearrangement and then little bit of mathematical tricks. We obtained three different expressions. Those expressions are nothing but a homogeneous second order differential equations. One expression is equation number 6, and this expression number 6 is a homogeneous differential equation which exactly resembling like a
In one
yeah,
dimension.
Particle confined to one-dimensional box.
One.
The only difference between that particular thing and here is, in the previous problem, the length of the box is actually, we have started with the capital L. But here, the length of the box, since we are
Is
only
L1.
L1.
Length of the box.
Yeah, that's the only difference. So why I said, because the Hamiltonian h psi is equal to E psi. This is exactly, this expression number 6 is exactly resembling the particle confined to one-dimensional box time independent Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, this is the time independent Schrodinger wave equation of a particle confined to one-dimensional box whose length is L1. That is why we are just adopting its solutions from the previous knowledge and then writing down the solutions. That's all. Okay. And if we continue our discussion to other two expressions, those are equation number 8, where we have y variable. This is a time-independent Schrodinger wave equation of a particle confined confined between 0 and L2. Okay, confined between 0 and L2, and whose solution can be straightaway taken from the previous knowledge, that is square root of 2 by L2 sine n2 pi y by L2. Okay, and the energy expression, in this case, it is going to be E2, that is n2 square h cross square pi square upon 2 ml2 square. And we can extrapolate this particular discussion to the third expression, where we have a z variable, and we can write down the expressions for z of z, that is the wave function. Okay, and that is nothing but square root of 2 by L3 sine n3 pi z by L3. Okay, so the energy expression or the eigenvalue n3 square h cross square pi square by 2 ml3 square. So why I'm writing all these things? The answer is very simple. The expression number 10 is nothing but the time independent Schrodinger wave equation of a particle which is confined along the z direction within the limits 0 and L3. That is why I just adopted the particle one-dimensional box problem solution as such, and then I'm applying. Okay, now having known all these things, what is x of x we obtain, what is y of y we obtain, what is z of z we obtain. Now, what is the total wave function? The complete solution is nothing but the total wave function. Please remember, we started with an assumption or with a substitution. The total wave function is the product of three wave functions. So now what is x of x, y of y, z of z are known. Therefore, you can just simply substitute those values. Then the wave function is going to be square root of psi n1, L2, n3 x of x, y, z is equal to square root of 8 by L1, L2, L3 sine n1 pi x by L1 sine n2 pi y by L2 sine n3 pi z by L3. Okay, I hope that these are constant, right? So square root of 2 by L1, square root of 2 by L2, square root of 2 by L3. So L is actually a dimensionless, it's a length. Therefore, we have to just write down and then square root of 2. That means there are 3 square root of 2. So it is square root of 8, right? And overall, the normalization constant is going to be square root of 8 by L1, L2, L3. And the wave function sine n1 pi x by L2, L1, sine n2 pi y by L2, sine n3 pi z by L3. So that is the wave function. Now, what about the energy expression? So, well, the energy expression is nothing but the summation of E1, E2 plus E3. Therefore, you just write down those things. Okay, write down those things. H cross square pi square by 2m is a common factor. So you can just write down outside the bracket, and whatever it is left over, if you write inside, that is going to be n1 square by L1 square plus n2 square by L2 square plus n3 square by L3 square. That is within the thing. So I'm sure that most of you are following why I'm writing the energy expression E, N1, N2, N3. So why I'm writing this? Please remember that the energy, we realize that it is depending upon 3 quantum numbers. Similarly, here again I have written, okay, when we started there is no notation, but then after solution we realize that if the particle is moving along the x direction, whose wave function is characterized by one quantum number. If the particle is moving along the y direction, there is again another quantum number. If the particle is moving along z direction, there is another quantum number is there. Therefore, so there are 3 quantum numbers. Therefore, it is appropriate to represent the wave function with the 3 different quantum numbers. Similarly, is the case for the energy expression of the eigenvalue. Okay, energy expression of the eigenvalue. Now, what I do is that a special case probably we can think of. A special case probably we can think of based on these, based on the solutions of particle confined to 3-dimensional box. That is nothing but, okay, you just imagine the rectangular box. Now it is not a rectangular box alone. Let's say it is a cubical box. If it is a cubical box, the length of the box in all 3 directions, that is x, y, z directions, it is going to be same. We cannot have L1, L2, L3 separate. So L1 is equal to L2 is equal to L3 is equal to L. So the length in all 3 dimensions, 3 direction, it is going to be same for a cubical box. Therefore, the solution, the wave function, the total wave function is going to be like this: square root of 8 by L cube sine n1 pi x by L sine n2 pi y by L sine n3 pi z by L. Okay, that's all. And the energy expression. The energy expression is nothing but E n1, n2, n3 is equal to h cross square pi square by 2ml square. And then, you know, in the previous expression, that is already it is here, you can notice here. So here, L1 square, L2 square, and then L3 square. But now I'm saying that for cubical blocks, L1 is equal to L2 is equal to L3 is equal to L, capital L, small l. Therefore, that, you know, so here from here, this L square will come outside as a common factor. So inside we will have n1 square plus n2 square plus n3 square will be inside the bracket. Okay, so with this, we have come to the discussion, the solutions of particle confined to 3-dimensional box. And I will continue the remaining discussion, that is visualization of the wave functions and the energy values we shall discuss in the next class. So essentially today we didn't solve anything, but then we have used our previous knowledge to find the solutions of particle confined to 3-dimensional box. That is a fact. So we don't have to really work always mathematically. So there are certain mathematical tricks are available. If you understand physical knowledge, physically what is the system, accordingly you can adopt the solutions what are already known to us, and then we can proceed accordingly. So that's what I have done. So like yesterday, in previous class, we have really discussed the how to solve, how to find the normalization constant, and how to find the wave function, and the quantum number, how it arises. All those things are already there. So those things you need not to do it again, because already we have solved that. So it's a matter of you can just start. In the case of, for example, if you want to start systematically, you can write down 3 different expressions. Those are nothing but equation number 6, 8, and then 10 expressions. These 3 expressions you can write down. You can start with like particle confined to one-dimensional box. You can take equation number 6, and then you can start v1 of x is going to be 0. Okay, so now the expression is going to be h cross square upon 2m dou square upon dou x square. X of x is equal to e1 x of x. That's so this particular thing is going to be 0. So this won't be there because the potential energy, as long as the particle is within 0 and L1, its potential energy is 0. So that we can neglect. So what is left over? The remaining is that. So that is the second order differential equation. To find x of x, you can have different solutions. Like as I told you in the previous class, exponential function are going to be solutions. Similarly, sine function, cosine functions are going to be solutions. Sine functions and cosine functions are going to be solutions of this second order homogeneous differential equation. Exponential functions, we don't take it. I mean, imaginary exponential function, we don't take it because very difficult to plot and then visualize the wave functions. Therefore, we don't adopt it. But a linear combination of sine function and the cosine function can satisfy the expression number 6. Either sine function or cosine function, you can take it, no problem. But the ideal solution will be linear combination of sine and cosine. Now, you can start like a sine x of x, and b sine x of x. Then you have to find, you will find b is equal to 0, right? And then, sine function, when it becomes 0, the sine function becomes 0 for all values of n pi. So those expressions, I mean, whatever the procedure that you have adopted, the case that we have discussed in the case of particle confined to one-dimensional box, same thing actually carries. I mean, there is nothing new to discuss actually there. If you learn the particle confined to one-dimensional box, then it is fairly easy to work it out. But to discuss now, because since we already know those solutions, that type of differential equation solutions, so we just adopt it. So we need not to do the same thing again. But when you are adapting, you have to write down your logic why you are adapting. So that's the only small thing that you have to take care while writing the answer in the examination point of view. Just write down, say that, okay, these are the 3 different differential equations, and the expression number 6 as if resemble the as if the particle is actually confined to one-dimensional box within the limits 0 and L1. Okay, and the expression number 8, it is the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation of a particle as if the particle is actually confined to one-dimensional box whose length is L2. Similarly, expression number 10 is the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation of particle confined to a one-dimensional box when it is moving along z direction, whose length is L3 and whose potential is 0 within the box, that is in between 0 and L3. So likewise, you can just write down to the statements and straight away take those solutions from the particle and then make changes wherever it is necessary. Like when you are writing the wave function and the energy expression, that's slightly, make changes according to the system, the present system, and then write down the total wave function. The total wave function is going to be like this: psi n1, n3, n2, n3 of x comma y comma z is equal to square root of L by L1, L2, L3. Sine n1 pi x by L1, sine n2 pi y by L2, sine L3 pi z by L3. That is the total wave function, because it is the product of 3. Just when you multiply it, that's what you are going to get. Similarly, the energy expression is going to be like this. As a special case, suppose if the rectangular box. So what we have done is a much generalized expression, and from there you can apply to different different systems. Like cubical box, the length of the box is going to be same. Therefore, L1 is equal to L2 is equal to L3 is equal to, let's say it is L. So in that situation, that the wave function is going to be square root of 8 by L cube sine n1 pi x by L1 L plus sine n2 pi y by L sine n3 pi z by this thing. So accordingly, the eigenvalue is also going to change.